Welcome to the Leadership Library. I'm your host, Rocky Romanella. I hope you're enjoying the first two episodes of season 9. Today, we're going to continue with team building. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the considerations for team building and how to build an effective team. I'm going to take you through 4 different parts of that, and then I'm going to bring on our subject matter expert, Coach Romo. And you can see how even in sports or in other things, these are all important topics. So the first one is effectively managing varying work styles among your team members. So in business, you can see everybody has a different style of how they do things. However, you've got to take that style, that energy, that enthusiasm of each individual and make sure it blends together. So effectively managing the various work styles that are in your area of responsibility or in your care as the leader. Leveraging the strength of others within the team, right? So every team member has a strength. We used to always say in baseball, not everybody can bat fourth, right? You're going to have some players that are great fielders, but not great hitters, but they're important to the team. Same in business, right? Some people are going to be very good with managing people. Some people are going to be very good with data and analytics and those kinds of things. Proactively identifying potential conflicts. This is where the individuality is great, but now you got to make sure the personalities match and resolve them in a direct and effective manner. This is so important. That's where you have to be the leader, right? There's no secrets in an organization. Everybody's sitting there wondering when you as the leader are going to address the fact that there are people not being held accountable. And so that's that. Number 3 is so important. Proactively identifying potential conflicts and resolving them in a direct and efficient manner. And finally, encouraging and inspiring your team members to share their thoughts and ideas while showing a personal dedication to collective. So you're always going to have that person that's got their hand up, can't wait to tell you what they're thinking. And that, they could be your early adopters. It could be your really good people. However, they have to understand that there's others in. And if they're taking all the energy and the air out of the room, it's hard for anyone else to feel like they can offer an idea. So it's how you manage those kinds of scenarios. So Coach Romo, maybe you can talk to a little bit about these 4 points: managing the various work styles, leveraging the strength of others within the team, proactively identifying some conflicts and how you resolve them, and encouraging and inspiring the team to share their thoughts and ideas while they're listening and collectively listening to their peers on the team.
Absolutely. I love the 4 concepts you have for building a team. And I think that when you find the pillars, if I may, that you believe are the foundation of building your team, there are things that you can't go off of every single day. And so for me, to make all 4 of those pillars you just talked about happen, I believe in the relationship that I have with each player or each person in my organization. If I want to hold them accountable or I want to have a tough conversation, I feel like I can have that conversation if we've built relationships. On the flip side, if I want to recruit them to the program, I want to be able to tell from the first conversation I have with them, ooh, this is somebody that's interested in getting to know me and the program more. This then allows me on the bookend of those 2 things to accomplish everything in between with a relationship built, coming up with new ideas, empowering the players, holding them accountable. They can hold me accountable. But I just feel like the word relationship, and it could take many forms, Rock. It can, but the word relationship for us is prime in making sure that we knock down those 4 pillars, with the biggest one for me being ownership for the players, because I do believe ownership player to player and then player to coach and coach to player is a big foundation for at least our program.
It's interesting, of all the sports, and I'm sorry if you're not a sports fan out there, it's just use as an example, but it's interesting. Of all the major sports, it feels to me that the one that the captain means the most is in hockey, because in that hockey locker room, as you know, that's pretty tough. Hockey and Rocky, it's tough. So in that hockey locker room, many times between periods, it's only the players and the captain doing the talking. the coach doesn't even enter the room at that point. And I feel like that informal leader is such a key player on a team. And I think, hockey is that sport that really utilizes the captain. And maybe that's more formal, but the informal captain is just as important. And I think on teams, whether in business and in sports, those informal leaders are so important. They could be the wise old sages. They've been there 20, 25 years. They don't really have a title of manager or leader, but everybody goes to them and asks them their opinion. Could be your seniors on your team. And I think they're so important. Do you agree with that?
I absolutely do. Actually, we put our group members into what we would consider boats or small groups. So one upperclassman on our team will lead a small team of 5 or 6 players, and then the 5 or 6 players in their group will report to the leader. Then that leader will come back to the assistant coaches and the head coach, and that's kind of how we work through that, to your point. And when we look to build teams, I don't want to recruit players that their freshman year I don't believe could lead one of those boats their senior year. And it doesn't mean everyone's going to lead a boat, right? Not everyone is, in theory, by definition, the word leader, but everyone can lead. And so I feel like you put them in those little small groups. You give someone, like you just said, that ownership, and now they prosper, and then the players underneath them prosper, and it really develops a really nice team environment. So I absolutely believe it, because we're living it every single day with our team.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that happens when you have those kinds of setup, like in business, for example, when you have those kind of informal leaders, you have other staff managers, other functional managers that you're a peer with, for example, HR maybe, or finance and accounting. When you can have the people in your care, the people on your team engage with others, it also sometimes gives them a vehicle or a place to go when they have concerns. They're not quite sure how to approach you with the concern, maybe even though you're an approachable leader, but they're not really quite sure. I think that giving people a vehicle, a place to go, to get some things off their chest, or to talk to someone, whether it's a peer, whether it's a senior, if you're a freshman, whether it's a peer in a business organization, or someone that's been around a while. I think it allows a person to get those things off of their chest, to discuss those things before they fester, and the next thing you know, someone's leaving, or in your case, they're going into the transfer portal because they feel like, I don't know if I really feel like I belong here, or someone's going to listen.
Such a good point. And by the way, then that's your reputation when that person leaves. I think about that all the time, because people are going to leave. I'm sure when you worked at UPS for 36 years, you had to accept, whether I like this employee or not, they think that this isn't the right place for them. They're going to leave. And I always think to myself, okay, if they are going to leave, if the transfer portal is real, what are they saying about Coach Romo? And what are they saying about the program when they leave? Because perception's reality. So if they're going to leave because they don't like something that's going on inside, what are they telling people that it's now going to be, in a way, informal marketing for my program, good, bad, or indifferent? So that's always what tries to remind me, like, all right, I got to make sure. They might not like the type of head coach I am, X's and O's, but I don't want them to not like showing up to work for me, or I don't want them to not feel comfortable in the workplace, So I also think about that aspect, what perception is that person giving our program when they leave?
Well, I think that's so true. And just to wrap up, if you think about it, I mean, in business, turnover is one of those costs that it's so hard to kind of quantify, but it's so expensive. I mean, you could constantly turn over people. If you're doing that, you never get any consistency. You never get consistency in the service that you're performing to your customers. You never get consistency inside your organization. You never get a chance to move forward exponentially. It's all relative, because you're always turning over people. And so I think if you can be that leader that builds a world-class team that allows people to be individuals, as we talked about it in the first episode, but also be part of the group, they have a place to go if they do have concerns. They feel like their voice matters. They feel like they're part of the solution. not part of the problem. Hey, look, it's not going to be a perfect world every day, as I said before, but you got to feel like you're part of something. You know, the example I give you is when you take your kids to look at colleges and they walk around and, you know, all of a sudden you see them and you know, like, this is where they think they should go. This is where they feel like they fit. Well, that's what you want in your organization. You want that people to feel like they fit the same way on your team. You want that to happen. Thank you so much for listening to the Leadership Library. I'm your host, Rocky Romanella. Thank you once again. Please subscribe, get friends to subscribe, and let's try to get one of these episodes to the 10,000 level if we can. Thanks again, and look forward to talking about team building in our next episode.